This is one of our new vac trucks. This is a rotary vane truck. It is a different vac truck compared to our other ones we have, which are air movers. This one's a rotary vane. This is a heavy liquid moving truck for moving heavy solid liquids, which is capable of actually moving crude oil, but we never get into that. Hopefully we never do. This is mainly going to be used for our drills, for our mud trucks, or for our mud drill to recover the mud from the drilling system, which we do have a huge need for that. But the process we're using now with our normal vac trucks, we're having continual issues with problems from operating the trucks with using the mud in it. So therefore, we went to this setup. It is a very simple truck to operate. Again, it is a rotary vane, which the rotary vane pump is over here. This is your oil system for your pump that you always check and make sure that it's never low, because it has to be kept full. This is your debris tank, which you drain it daily when you're done from vacuuming throughout the day and whatever, because you will have some condensation that comes through and gets in here. This is your pressure relief valve. It's also a vacuum relief valve. This valve here, you never touch. You never try to adjust this. You leave this valve where it's at, because if we create too much vacuum or too much pressure in this tank with the valves closed, this is basically a safety valve, because if we do that, we'll either implode the tank or we will blow the tank apart one way or the other. It is very crucial that this valve stays in the position it's in. The pressure washer system for this is in this cabinet. And this is different than our other vac trucks that we have, where this one is its own confined system, its own engine to operate it, which is battery or gas engine, which runs from the gas tank up there, and the hose reel, which this is for. The purpose for this one is not to be able to use to pothole. It is meant to clean the tank of this truck inside and also the outside of the truck, but mainly to wash the truck out at the end of the day when you are done. That's all really this is intended for. It's not intended to do anything else. That is really all it's meant. The purpose it is to just keep the tank clean inside. This is a self-winding reel. So once you turn the switch on and you push this button, it will reel this hose back up for you. So that way you should be able to hold it with a rag. And as it's reeling in, it should help clean the dirt and grime it gets on the hose off of it as it rolls itself in, so this doesn't become a huge mud collector inside. The wand is down underneath. That's where it needs to be stored at, underneath. And whatever, there's no other place on the truck to put it. It sits right down here in the bottom. It's not a real big pressure washer wand, but that is the one that requires for it to do what you need to do with it, which is this one right here. It just tucks in back behind it. Tips are usually going to be here, and this top deal, these need to be taken out and put here, but they're here. There'll be certain tools you'll need that'll be here on the side of the cabinet for the operations for it. Your winterization of it is up here, which is your antifreeze tank. When you have your antifreeze in here, there's a valve down below you need to shut off, which shuts the water from the actual water tank on the other side of the truck. You open up the antifreeze valve and you run that through your pressure washer system, until you remove all the water out, until you have nothing but pure antifreeze in it. That keeps the system from breaking. These pressure washer pumps are prone to break if they get water in them in the wintertime and get cold. It'll damage them quite easily, and they're very expensive to replace, and time consuming. When operating the truck itself, to engage for the pump system, you need to start the truck up. It needs to be running at normal idle, and your air pressure needs to be up to 120 psi at full pressure before it, and the truck needs to be in neutral. You start the truck up, and then you Once your truck is started up, your air pressure is where it needs to be. The truck is at an idle. You engage here with your switch for your PTO, which then turns your PTO on. You turn your cruise control on, get set, and then you throttle up. No higher than 1150 RPM. Anything higher than that will burn the stuff out. When you go to shut down, you need to throttle this back down, bring her back down to an idle, shut the PTO off, over here at the switch, and then you're pretty much well done. The PTO system that's in this truck, however, is not one you can drive down the road with. The PTO can only be engaged when the truck is sitting still. If the pump is running and you need to move the truck, you have to disengage the PTO before you move the truck. You cannot put it in gear and move the truck with the PTO on this truck engaged. Your control for your actual vac system itself is right here on this hand control. Setting here is neutral. There's arrows up here. One says vac, one says pressure. And the arrows point which way it has to go. So for vacuum, it's straight back. That sends it to vac mode. Again, that is neutral. And pressure is forward, which swings this arrow down here on the pressure side, which changes your pressure in your tank, or changes your tank either from vacuum to pressure. When you do go from one to the other, or when you are shutting down, you need to bring this into this neutral position and allow the pump, or the blower, or not the blower, but the actual pump itself, this rotary vane pump, to wind itself down before disengaging the PTO system. You also always want to engage the PTO at the truck in an idle, then throttle up. When you disengage the PTO, you want to throttle the truck back down to an idle before you disengage. You never want to disengage it at operating speed because it will damage it from when it kicks out. In the same way, kicking in, it can do the same thing. It can damage it kicking in because it starts causing the gears inside to grind against each other in the transmission. It's very, very important. The other thing that's very important is to understand when your tank is full. At the very back of your tank, we have sight glasses in it at various stages. So naturally, the one here in the middle of the tank, crossways, is half full. Top one is 3/4. The next one up is 3/4. The very top one is full. But the way these work is when it gets to the very top of the bottom part of the sight glass, when it gets there, that is its full point, which means right here. When you start seeing material right here, it is full. It needs to be shut down at that point in time and then taken to the dump to be disposed of as far as the material inside. Going anything further past that can cause it to run down into the blower, into the catch tank, but not the blower, but into the catch tank, and then into the rotary pump. But if it creates a reverse vacuum on the pump and whatever, it will cause it to bog down and it will make the pump spin backwards. Spinning the pump backwards then was going to try, which will try to spin the truck with it running, will try to spin the transmission and the truck backwards because it's direct drive PTO. If it does that, it can seriously damage the transmission or the engine in the truck. You have to be very mindset of where you're at when you're filling your truck. You always want to make sure your valves are closed when you go to leave with them. You want to make sure all caps are in place and locked down properly. That is to meet DOT's regulations. This is very critical that these are sealed properly. Any fixture at any valve on any back truck whatsoever requires the valve and it requires a cap. This is your first way of securing your load. This is your second secured. This is your safety. This is your first this is your safety. So make sure that these are capped. If you don't have a cap, we need to know so we can get you one for it if the cap gets gone, because that can also get in trouble as far as with DOT. We can get tickets for that, for unsecured loads. And especially when you're dealing with a truck like this one that is carrying liquids, it is extremely important because it can cause extreme problems, especially on the highway to the public and whatever, if this thing starts leaking material out of the back of it. These caps are extremely important. They also have the rubber seals inside the caps, which are in here. These rubber seals is what seals on this face. So if you don't have that seal in there, this will just pop freely. It does no good. It has to have the gasket in it for it to seal. So when it goes on, it's up and on, and then it can be manipulated to where it properly seals the tank. They're tight, they're hard to get on, but they're necessary. If they're not, it's not sealed. So if it doesn't have the rubber in it, then literally it will move like this, and it will not seal the truck. The water system to the truck, the tank, is on the passenger side of the truck. This needs to be drained daily, which the drain valve is at the bottom. Needs to be drained daily, not leaving the water in the tank, especially with this being a steel tank, aluminum tank, basically. With water being left inside the tank, it will create mold and mildew in the tank with that water in it if it's left for a long period of time. That then will run through into the pressure washer itself and will clog it up and can damage the pressure washer as well. So the water tank needs to be drained every day. This is the water tank is not any bigger than this because it is literally here for just simply to clean your truck out, to clean your tank out, and to wash down your carriage for after you have your hoses in here. Any debris you get in it is to be able to wash that stuff away. The depth tank for this truck is here. It's extremely important to make sure the depth tank stays full. Now with this truck, with any truck, but primarily this one needs to make sure it stays full because this truck on the job site has to run continuously. So this will be working continuously. So it has to be maintained full. If this gets extremely low or does get low, it will put the truck into protect mode and will shut it down. It will not allow the PTO to engage, and the truck will be rendered basically useless. You'll have to either be a type of deal where it has to be towed back or whatever has to be done to try to get this, to take it out of that mode and get it to gen and be able to be moved again. This is extremely important to open your hoods of your truck every day, check your fluids, check your antifreeze, your oil, hoses, belts, make sure everything's in good working shape. Your tires, make sure your tires are in good shape. The inside tires and the outside tires, make sure your hubs are not leaking oil. Same way with the rear as well. Make sure you're not leaking oil from your hubs. Make sure all your lighting works. Make sure your mirrors are properly adjusted for you when you drive. Make sure your mirrors are intact. Make sure they're not flopping around. Make sure they're tight. Make sure your wipers are working correctly. Everything that you need for this truck to function correctly, make sure it's on there and working correctly. It is very important to maintain the safety of everybody, the people and the public, but also our own employees, that this truck is maintained to where everybody is safe to operate it and safe to be on the road. Doing the pre-trip on the truck is extremely crucial. We can find problems with the vehicle by doing a pre-trip before it goes out, before it does become a problem, before it takes a chance of either endangering somebody in the public or endangering one of our employees just simply because was overlooked, because it was not done. Plus, that is also a requirement by DOT that these are pre-trips are done on these. This is something that is, a lot of it they have let skate by for quite a long time. But this year, and I know later on in the year and whatever, and next year, they're going to start really cracking down on paperwork and whatever. This truck here also is under 26,000 when loaded. It comes in right under 26,000. So therefore, this fortunately is a non-CDL truck. It does not require a CDL driver to operate it. But again, even though it does not require that and does not require CDL to operate it, you are still under the rules and regulation of DOT. You have got to do your pre-trips. You have to drive it in accordance with the rules that DOT sets forth. Um, so, like I said, you do not need a CDL to operate it, but it does fall under DOT regulations. Um, Make sure that everything is in good working order before you leave with it. It's a very simple operation. It's a very simple truck to operate. There's a few things about it that you just have to maintain. You have to make sure of that how you engage your PTO, like I said before, the engine's at an idle, idling it down before you disengage the PTO. Do not overfill the truck. You do not want to get it into a bind where it causes the bog itself down, basically trying to stall the engine, and it will then spin the engine and transmission backwards in it, which can cause a lot of damage. Other than that, like I said, it's a simple truck to operate. It's a very simple vehicle to handle. We should um, make great strides with this one as far as what things that we need to do. And that's it. It's a very simple system. Thank you.